I was repeatedly raped by Al Gibbs for a 2-year period during my time at St. George's. I was threatened not to tell if I told anyone, he would come after me and I would be in trouble. I said nothing to anyone.
This is exactly what happened to me. This is exactly how this guy operates. It's real. 45 years later, he's still doing it.
I have paid such a price for being silent my whole life in this regard that if I have paid that price, how many other kids are there that have paid that price?
These former students of St. George's School in Rhode Island and the Fessenden School in Massachusetts are among hundreds of alleged victims of sexual abuse at New England private schools. At least 67 private schools have faced accusations since 1991 that staffers sexually abused or harassed more than 200 students. The abuse often dates back decades, and the schools are struggling to respond. A Boston Globe Spotlight Team investigation uncovers private schools with painful secrets.
I took the decision to publicly share my story because I felt that they were trying to bury it all again, and that that survivors weren't getting any help or assistance that they needed.
Nearly 50 individuals have joined Ann Scott in reporting sexual abuse or misconduct at St. George's to attorneys in recent months. Alumni at other schools are now coming forward with abuse allegations and criticizing schools for not doing enough to support them.
It's outrageous to me, even more outrageous to me, to discover that they've been approached over the years and settled multiple times, very silently. The hell with them.
Stephen Starr says he was sexually abused at the Fessenden School in the late 1960s by his geography teacher, James Dahlman, and by a school psychologist, Mickey Clampett. Decades later, he reported the misconduct to the school, but the school still hasn't publicly named Starr's alleged abusers. Dahlman died in the 1980s, and Clampett could not be reached for comment.
I want them to own it. I want them to acknowledge it both legally and financially and reform whatever it was inside that school that let them know about this stuff all these years.
We have identified 7 individuals who worked at St. George's School who are alleged to be perpetrators of sexual abuse.
Eric McLeish is an alumnus of St. George's and an attorney for more than 30 of the St. George's victims who have spoken out, including Ann Scott.
Higher-ups knew about this for years and years. Multiple higher-ups knew about it. People were let go, terminated, or allowed to resign.
A former St. George's student, Marshall, says he was sexually assaulted by teacher William Anthony Lydgate after arriving at the school in 1968. We have altered Marshall's voice and are using his middle name to protect his identity.
You know, the school left me to shoulder this responsibility on my own. I had to take responsibility because nobody else did. And that was the real perpetration, because I was only 15.
Decades later, Lydgate was accused of abusing another teenager in a lawsuit filed by a former student at Island School in Kauai, Hawaii. Marshall said the allegations sounded all too familiar.
This is exactly what happened to me. This is exactly how this guy operates. It's real. 45 years later, he's still doing it.
Lydgate, who settled the suit, said he had no recollection of any such incident at St. George's and that no criminal charges were brought in the Kauai matter. Allegations like Marshall's reveal a troubling pattern. Staff at private New England schools who were accused of sexual misconduct were allowed to leave quietly and get jobs working with students elsewhere. Peter Upham is the executive director of the Association of Boarding Schools.
30 years ago, rightly or wrongly, and it was probably wrongly, a lot of abuse was handled quietly. And I think what that demonstrated was a failure to recognize that people who abuse are likely to abuse again.
Many schools dealing with allegations have not made the names of suspected or confirmed abusers public, and they are reluctant to talk about the issue. 90% of New England private schools declined to answer a survey from the Globe on their experience with abuse allegations. But some schools are becoming more open in confronting their histories. Charles Conroy is the former head of the Dr. Franklin Perkins School, a boarding school for special education students in Lancaster.
When someone comes and is that vulnerable and wants to tell you about this horrible situation that they found themselves in, and usually as little children, that it's terribly important that you be able to say to them, I believe you, and that on behalf of this institution that I now head, but didn't then, I'm sorry that it happened, and is there anything I can do for you?
Survivors of sexual abuse and their advocates say they want more schools to own up to the misconduct and to offer help to the victims. But they also want the schools to emerge as stronger and safer institutions.
When tradition or the sake of the institution gets placed over and above individual lives, that is no longer a good thing. Protecting the institution, protecting the symbols of the institution and the image of the institution has to stop.